Welcome to the Meade Training Series. I'm Scott Roberts and I'll be your guide for setting up and using this telescope. If you're new to amateur astronomy and this is one of your first telescopes, allow yourself to simply enjoy manual viewing as you learn more about the technique of operating the electronics. Astronomy is about exploration and discovery, and as you learn more about your Meade instrument, the more your understanding of the universe will expand. So, let's get started. It should be made clear before you use your telescope that it must never be pointed at or near the sun at any time. Observing the sun for even the smallest fraction of a second will result in instant and irreversible eye damage, as well as physical damage to the telescope itself. This video is to be used with the printed instruction manual to allow you to fully explore the night sky and to become comfortable in using the telescope. Your telescope may be a slightly different model, but it's essentially the same as the model presented here. By now you should have read through the first part of the instruction manual that covers assembling the telescope. The following are procedures you should perform during the daytime before you go out observing at night. Performing them in the daylight will allow you to become more familiar with the features of your telescope before you go out in the dark. This would include installing the batteries in the base of the telescope. You don't need to install batteries into the AutoStar handbox. It's powered by the batteries installed in the telescope's base. Next, you set up the tripod. Begin by installing the leg lock knobs. Slide the spreader bar onto the tension rod. Thread the washers, spring, and tension knob onto the tension bar and tighten to a firm feel. Next, you will mount the telescope on the tripod. First, unlock and lift the tripod tilt plate to have easy access to the underside of the plate. Here's a tip. Relock the tilt plate after you lift it, so it doesn't slip when you attach the telescope. Line up the mounting holes on the base of the telescope with the mounting bolts on the plate. Tighten the mounting bolt knobs to a firm feel. Unlock and lower the tilt plate and relock. Slide the eyepiece into the eyepiece holder and tighten the thumb screw to a firm feel. Make sure the flip mirror control is in the up position. Next, attach the viewfinder assembly. If you have an ETX90 model, slide the viewfinder through the front of the bracket. If you have an ETX 105 or 125 model like the one shown here, slide the viewfinder through the rear of the bracket. When the viewfinder is in place, tighten all the aligned screws. We'll cover how to align the viewfinder later in this video. Finally, remove the dust cover. Let's align the viewfinder. A viewfinder is used to find objects as it has a much wider field of view than the eyepiece. It has a twist focusing mechanism at its eyepiece, and through the viewfinder you will see crosshairs with an image that is upside down, which is normal. The purpose of aligning the viewfinder is to get its crosshairs centered on the same object that's centered in the eyepiece of the telescope. An easy way to make this alignment is to aim the telescope with the 26mm eyepiece at a distant land object, such as a telephone pole or sign, and then adjust the viewfinder bracket's adjustment screws until the crosshairs fall directly over the same object that's in the eyepiece. If you find that the images are blurry in the viewfinder, you can twist the eyepiece until it becomes sharp. Once you've aligned it on a land object, point the telescope at the moon and refine the alignment. Now you'll take your telescope outside for the first time at night. When astronomers observe through a telescope for the first time, they say the telescope receives first light. On your first night out, you'll need to locate north. Set the telescope home position and align your telescope. Your telescope will then be ready for first light. When your telescope is aligned, you'll be able to try out the AutoStar's go-to and guided tour features. Don't let the terms setting the home position or aligning the telescope scare you off. AutoStar asks you a few simple questions, prompts you to level your telescope and point it north. Once you try it a couple of times, you'll find it's really easy. Using the AutoStar controller, you can align your telescope in either the Alt-Az or the equatorial mode. These modes control how the telescope moves while you're searching for stars and performing other functions. The fastest and easiest way to locate celestial objects is to use the Alt-Az mode. AutoStar is, by default, in the Alt-Az mode when you first power on. Read the instruction manual if you wish to find out more about equatorial mode. When you choose the Alt-Az alignment mode, AutoStar automatically picks 2 stars from its database to easy align the telescope. During this procedure, AutoStar moves the telescope to the first alignment star, and the user is asked to center the star in the eyepiece. The process is then repeated with a second star to complete the alignment. In order for the AutoStar to move the telescope correctly, it needs to know the time, date, location, and model number. AutoStar will ask you to enter this information before aligning the telescope.